Is there anyone else joining us besides Marlene? Liz? Is Liz?
Not that I know of.
You guys can go ahead and get started. I'm just heading back to my office.
Oh, okay. Thanks, Marlene. All right. What do we got? First on the list, HCA's and the scoring rubric. MJ, have you looked over the scoring rubric?
I looked at our matrix from before.
Yeah.
I looked at what the template was that published in January or something from the Cannabis Control Commission. I looked at Ivria's memo to us last November, where she pointed out a couple things about the matrix.
Yeah, a couple of comments. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we could go the direction of the HCA template, but I don't necessarily think we need to change ours. I think we had most of their stuff in there. We just didn't have it broken down into smaller categories of 7.5. We had pretty much everything in our scoring matrix when it came to the business plan, but we just gave the business plan like 25 points. And then
Right.
we gave the social equity 25 points. And then there was, she had comments in her thing about having concern that the social equity people couldn't get the category points for DEI. And I say take that limitation out. And then she had comments about the race-based stuff being subject to concerns. So we had 3 categories in our diversity, equity, inclusion thing. One was women, one was minorities, and listed a bunch of things, and then veterans. So I mean, if we want to go by her advice, we could just take that category B out, and then
That was my thinking too. I think page 2 is probably not necessary, where we have documentation of 51% of the entity is, women minority, as you said before, MJ. I think we can take that section out and just have you still can attain 75 points. I think the obviously the equity standards and equity parties portion of this is consistent with what the Cannabis Control Commission regulations are with respects to definitions for economic empowerment priority applicants or social equity business applicants. I think that's well written out in that first section of our grading matrix. And I think that's the most important piece here with this licensure going to a social equity applicant, because it pretty much
they have to get those 25 points or they're not an applicant. And it has to, so on our RFQ or whatever, it has to sit, we have to add that category. Social equity applicant must meet those criteria is kind of a thing. Yeah. So.
Right. Yeah. And looking at some of I was looking at the checklist too, but I know Marlene and Liz are also reviewing that. There will be some sections that we won't need to have, but there'll be additional language, I think, that we'll have to make clear that you must be a social equity business applicant, or you have to be certified economic empowerment.
So right now we had 2 categories. We had adult use and we had medical, and then we'd have to add a category for social equity, and it would be check all that apply.
Right. We have that. We have that as part of the application documentation requirement too, because that was additional with the way we were doing it and the way the applicants came in. We covered all those bases.
Right.
So I think, that's also well written out in the requirement documentation checklist. So that stuff is already there, like location, equity parties, The only piece that I think we need to take out is the women minority veterans in that
Yeah, but I don't
checklist.
think we should take that totally out. I just think we should take out category B.
You,
Category B, there were three in that category. It was A, women, B, minority, and C, veteran. So I would just take out the B category for the race because that was her concern, that it race-based wasn't.
but we added that, right? That wasn't part of the definition of the cannabis control or the criteria of the Cannabis Control
No,
Commission.
it's totally separate from the equity standards, equity parties is
Right.
is a scoring
I
criteria.
Yeah, and are you talking about the grading
Select
matrix,
board
right?
marijuana scoring criteria.
Yeah, the grading matrix, I think we should take out that section altogether.
I disagree. I think we should just take out the B part of it. And then for purposes of this category, veterans shall be defined under 725 CMR 2.02. I don't think there's any reason to take out the veterans or take out the women. It was only race-based. I mean, we could leave it to it's the board going to decide.
Right, but I'm
But
saying
That's a
like,
decision point of whether to take it out or whether just to, so I want to kind of keep track of decision points.
okay,
Because that way, if we kind of keep track of decision points when we meet with the select board as a board, we can say, these are the things we have to make decisions on and keep it organized so that it doesn't, that there's some rhyme or reason to it. So
so let me ask this question, MJ. The applicant has to have a social equity business status
right,
or economic empowerment status.
right.
Are you saying if you keep women and veterans in there, it would be additional point value to them if
They're not in social equity. They're not in our social equity policy. It's a totally separate thing.
but we're looking at social equity licensure. And they can't apply unless they fall under those two categories, social equity business or social or economic empowerment certified applicant.
Right, but that has nothing to do with being a veteran. And it has nothing to do with being a woman.
It doesn't, but what's the purpose of it? If they're already getting 25 points, if the applicant's already qualifies for the equity standard as an applicant.
Right, there's an additional criteria that they could earn points for. And it may
That's
not
what
be
I'm asking.
25 points. I mean, we want to say
That's what I'm asking.
5 points, 10 points or something.
So above the fact that there's social equity business or economic empowered priority applicant, you're saying that keep it in to get additional points if they are a woman or a veteran.
Right.
Is that what you're saying?
Yes, but you could now earn points for both. Whereas last time you could earn social equity or you could earn women minority, but you couldn't, if you had social equity, you couldn't get the points for.
Right, and
for
actually
women minority.
negated, yeah, it leveled the playing
And I
field
might
for
say
social
that
equity.
diversity thing is like 10 points and put
I
the
wouldn't, yeah,
other
I
15
wouldn't put too
points to the
much,
business plan.
I wouldn't put too much point value on that.
Yeah, so it was 25. So reduce
Yeah,
it down to like 10.
It was 25 because it was an either or.
Right.
But yeah, I wouldn't put a whole lot of points value to that because they are so okay. We can take out minority. Keep. And then
if we made the diversity one 10 points for veteran or woman owned, right?
yeah.
On your business plan, you could add the 15 points there and have 40 points for the business plan. So it's 25 points for the social equity, 10 for diversity as an additional category, and then 40 for the business plan.
Yeah, one of my comments with that, ownership is fine. I think ownership is still important. That next section, ownership is still important, and showing documentation is really important.
Yes.
In the business plan portion of it, I had thought about, you know, I think there should be some emphasis on diversity plans with as weighing heavy in that business plan, because I know that, these people who these particular applicants do have to have a focus on a diversity plan within their business plan. So I would like to see, I don't know if we have it as a separate point system besides this business plan, pull it out and have maybe the 15 points we took from the women and veteran piece, and have something specific to what their diversity plan looks like.
So I was a little bit concerned. I was a little bit concerned about what she said about the diversity. Maybe it's fine to do it because she was the race-based stuff in Ivria's memo in November said the race-based stuff was difficult. I mean, maybe we could just leave it as minority, women, veteran, disabled. I don't have a problem with that. Making diversity, let's see.
They're supposed to, because they have been disproportionately impacted by the war on drugs. One of the things that I'm trying to remember the exact language I read in their diversity plan and how it would impact, how it would better serve the community by having a diversity plan and the impact on the community. I remember reading language somewhere about that, and I wish I could grab it. Might have to go back in my dinosaur of notes, but just to make note of it, maybe for the conversation with the select
Yeah,
board.
I mean, I think actually I kind of like this. I like that we change the diversity equity to take out the B section for minority, right?
Yeah.
So we're not in that race-based thing that she was concerned about. And then under take that 15 points and take that second bullet under business plan for commitment to hiring and annual reporting, and make that 15 points just go to that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I like that.
I'll look for the language too, so we can have it at the full meeting.
Okay.
But I'll make note and circle that section and maybe pull it out and have 15 points for that.
Yeah.
It can still be under business plan and just divide it up, put the other two on top, 25 points, and put that one further down with a 15 point next to it, in the column.
Okay. That's cool.
Still have it as a bullet under business plan, but have it as additional points next to it.
Yep.
So, but those are the biggest things I think that
Actually, what you might want to instead of making it under business plan, make it under hiring plan. Make it 15 points for a hiring plan.
Hiring plan, yeah. Or just call it, diversity plan, and just have a section called diversity plan and define it on what we're looking for. Okay.
I personally don't think it's necessary to break out things in the little point things, to give some flexibility on how you want to do it up to. I mean, I
Well,
think actually we
so-
had done pretty much everything that they had in their template. We just had it in broader categories but the same kind of points thing.
Right, right. And that's something we can bring forth to the full board too, under our discussion, MJ, to
Yeah.
just say, this is the template and the suggestions, and this is the reason why they broke out the points, and kind of have that conversation about how we just kind of categorized it a little more, a little broader.
Right. I
So,
think that's good.
and I think, I mean, there's argument for both ways, right? I mean, when we did this before, we didn't, people gave 15 out of 25 or 10 out of 25 or 20 out of 25. Um, and there's argument to say, okay, if we broke it out and this was 7 points, this was 7 points, seven, whatever, it's six in one, half a dozen the other, right? I mean,
Right. I mean, people
So-
did it use the rating system somewhat differently, but all in all, the ratings for the most part were pretty consistent. So I think it worked pretty well. I mean, there
Yeah.
wasn't, there were only a
Yeah.
few instances of outliers. So I think overall it worked pretty well.
right.
And I don't think it's necessary to totally reinvent the wheel here.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it may have helped, if anything, it may have helped a little bit more in the narrative as to reasons why or why not when we had to do our narratives and publicize them. That it may be helpful in that regard, but I think we did okay the first time around.
Yeah, and we didn't uh, um on the cannabis control template, they have reasons there. They had a column for reasons, but I'm not sure we need to do that either.
Yeah.
Um,
But we can, I mean, like I said, we can bring it to the full board, and they want to, have
yeah,
the conversation and take a look. I think it's important for them to take a look too, just to kind of see where, how we navigate it as well. All right. So do you want to talk about the HCA? I mean, we
Um,
pretty much adopted the,
yeah, I don't think we need to do anything about the HCA. I mean, I think we pretty much took the HCA template and
did.
adopted it as ours with a couple minor changes. So
yeah,
I think I'm fine with the HCA. The one thing I will note is that we had, and this is why I asked for the Capeway Cannabis HCA. We had 6 months from the signing to get your permits. And we're 6 months from the signing, and Capeway has not been to the planning board. So the Chief Cannabis has, and I don't know if Chief Cannabis has gone to, they've got approval from the planning board.
yeah.
I don't know if they've been to the Board of Health. Because I think they have to get a license. They have to get some sort of marijuana license from the Board of Health too, right?
They have to get something. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I think there's a
if it's
marijuana
a-
license from the
like
Board of Health.
a hearing to determine, check off another box, right? Basically.
Yeah, and I don't know if we listed that in the things that they have to get. Did we list that wasn't there something in our proposal that we
In
had?
the checklist, or, because I don't think, there's nothing in the,
Permitting flow chart.
oh,
Yeah, it's listed, yeah. So it listed confirm any permits, licenses, sewer allocation, Board of Health,
right.
planning board process, site plan approval permit. Must be completed within 6 months of executed HCA. So that permitting flow chart was pretty clear
Yeah, I'm looking at it now.
on like what they had to do. So we didn't say, it said that the HCA was going to be invalidated could be invalidated. And that it also said that we could give an extension, but we haven't been asked for an extension. So if we're meeting on this July 15th, it'll be past the 6 months. So we may have to talk about what we're going to do about that.
Right. Right.
And I'm not sure, there was a category in, this is where that stuff comes in from there was a category under our business plan.
On the rubric?
On our scoring matrix, I think there was something, business plan, yeah, it was, we didn't number these, we bulleted them, so it's kind of hard. Business plan demonstrate adequate financing
Yes,
to support
Yeah.
operations.
on the backside, yeah.
Yeah, and I don't know how much information we actually got on, like, hindsight's 2020, so I would pay more attention to that, I think, this time.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because I think that's one of the issues with the Cape Way cannabis. I'm not sure. what
Should we
else.
add it, say business plan must demonstrate adequate financing to support operations? Should we add some language in there?
It says
or-
that, I mean, it basically says, I don't know how, I wouldn't go with must, because I don't know how I don't know how you
So business plan demonstrates adequate
demonstrate
financing to support operations.
operations. I don't think I'd change it. I'm just saying from my own point of view, I'd pay a little bit more attention to that.
And those were red flags for me. I looked at that, in the first time around.
Yeah,
I made a lot of notes on that.
yeah. So, I mean, I
right.
think if we leave the social equity on the matrix, let's just stick to the matrix for now. The matrix, if we leave the social equity, that the diversity category is an additional 10 points, not, you can do both. And then we add that diversity hiring plan as a 15 points.
Mm-hmm.
And pretty much leave the rest of it the same, right? Yeah.
Right. My only other thing is, yeah. I think when in the public notice, we have to really be specific about the fact that, just because you're a woman doesn't mean you're applying for this. You have to have social equity business status or economic empowerment
Yeah,
status.
you must have that. You must meet that. So on our RFQ or whatever that document is,
Yeah.
our request, our
The public
application
notice,
thing.
Yeah.
Last time we had medical, we had adult use marijuana, medical marijuana, and we'd have to add a category for social equity license must meet the social equity criteria, and then check all that apply, right?
Right. Right.
Yeah. And it's kind of like the location thing we had before. You have to be in the MOD. So if you don't
Yeah.
meet the social equity, you don't get the 25 points. You don't qualify.
Right. And even, the ownership documentation, all those things. In the checklist too, the checklist, when going back to the financing piece of it, MJ, the checklist for in the application process, it does
Let me see if I
state,
can see that. Let me see if I can see that checklist. Yeah, okay. You get the checklist. Yep.
so down under business plan, it does state like some of the check documentation of funding sources available, pro forma projection of first year of operations.
Right.
Yeah. So it does again say there the documentation of funding sources
Yep.
available. So
Yep.
That's a big one, I think, to make sure that that's checked off for when, when Marlene, when you do your review to ensure that everything's there before it comes to us, right?
Yeah. And that That
You should-
checklist would take out the minority category for the diversity.
there's a section in there we'll have to take out, but I have it checked off.
And then that hiring plan thing would just go separate under the business hiring plan.
Yeah. Yeah,
Was
and I'll fool around with that template. And I'll look for that language that, as I said earlier, with respects to the diversity plan. I know there's specific language. I just can't, I mean, I brought my binder back out, and was reviewing it again.
Yeah.
So,
Um,
all right. Marlene, do you have any questions?
What about your policy? Because your process does not match what your policy states you're going to do. So I'd recommend that you need to revise your policy to be consistent with what you're actually doing.
you mean
Right.
the social equity policy?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
The
I think we
policy
have to
that-
change. I think we said in the social equity policy, it said that we may reserve a license, and I think we have to say has reserved a license.
Right.
It's an E changed to has reserved.
Um, right. And I'm wondering, so yeah, I guess the equity, the empowerment portion of it, that B section in the social equity policy, it just kind of defines, right? The economic empowerment priority categories.
Yep.
Yeah, I think there might be some different percentages or years in there that might be a little bit different. We'll have to take a look at that.
You mean between what we said and what the policy came was quite a bit from like the cannabis control.
Yeah, the
policy.
51%, the 75%. That's all, that part, the economic empowerment priority applicant, that definition is good. The social equity program participant satisfies one or more of the following.
So I think the
there's-
only thing I think is that individuals and their
So
required.
there's part D, part D of it, like individual
Yeah.
entities that are required to be considered under the equity component of the standard evaluation form pursuant to the commissioner's regulations, which are, so I think that language has to.
Yeah, and I think that's what the thing that happens is that the race piece of it ends up being under the social equity now instead of being under the diversity. Because that was all covered under the social equity, so it's kind of redundant to have it under. I think we can leave the social equity policy, except for under 4, host community agreements and equity applicants. Under E, the select
E.
board has reserved one HCA for licensed applicants that are. And then,
Yeah, in part C, where it says that they automatically receive 25 points under the equity standard equity parties category, that'll have to change a little bit.
well, no, it's still 25% under the equity standards, equity parties category. Social equity applicants will automatically receive 25 points under the equity standards, equity parties category. We didn't change that.
Equity standards, equity parties category.
Did we take out the part, a pre-verified individual?
Yeah, we have that part, yeah. The
We have to add
expedited,
that to
that's
our
not
social
part. They
equity?
can't apply anyway. They're not social equity businesses or economic empowered applicants. That's, yeah, pre-verified,
Is that
expedited.
in the Cannabis Control Commission one, or is it something that we added?
We added, that's not part of the Cannabis Control Commission's regulations. We added that. So that needs to come out. Because I remember making a note, not part of.
What are we looking for? The
Yeah, it
Cannabis
says a
Control
minority woman or
Commission.
veteran-owned business who qualified for expedited review under the commission's regulations, not part of SC regs, social equity regs. I wrote a note and I crossed it off.
So do we have to take the 4C and D3? Do we have to take both of those out of our policy?
4C, we should take out D3. D3.
D as in David 3. Yeah.
I see, yeah, in section 3.
Yeah. So
And
the
C.
B4C,
4C. And then
and
E
D3.
changes, and E just changes that
And that 4E changes we have reserved.
yeah. Okay. All right, so we did that. So the grading matrix, we're good. I'll make notes and have it a little cleaner.
Okay.
I'll make the other notes about the sections in the equity policy and we'll take a look again, like the whole,
Yeah. I mean, I think there's
just
that,
making
a
sure
couple minor changes to the application and the checklist, right?
right. And I
A
think,
couple minor changes to the social equity policy and couple minor changes to the matrix.
yeah, the public notice is gonna look a little different as it relates to, this particular licensure.
Right.
And the some from the checklist, but the first sheet business type entity application license type is add that box social equity, right?
Yep.
Under license type. And then right, and then once all those decisions made, then we'll look at timelines. But we don't need to do that now until we bring it to the whole board.
Well, Marlene said that she would propose a timeline.
For this?
Didn't you, Marlene, didn't you say that you would work on a proposed timeline?
For July, not for today.
Yeah, for July. Yeah, for the July
Yeah.
meeting. Kind of, this is like the proposed timeline. Yeah.
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 Okay. All right. I think that was all the things that I was concerned about. I just, want to make sure that we're tight on, people understanding, that this particular license isn't a general license for
Right.
marijuana.
It's you have to meet certain criteria to apply for the license. And that
Right.
should just be clear on the
As designated by the Cannabis
Yeah.
Control Commission. I think that's an important that's important language and important for people to understand in the public notice.
The only other thing is, I think that Marlene brought up is, if in the application process, at the hearings or interviews or whatever, the select board requests additional information, that additional information needs to go through the town administrator's office to be distributed to the select board. And I think that we just have to put a little bit of language in in that to clarify that,
Right.
so that you don't have emails coming randomly to select board members
Correct.
outside of the process.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
that was the only thing. And the other thing that was in Andrea's letter in November was this positive improvement plan. I just don't think we go there. I don't think we're interested in making that commitment at this time. And if they notify us of non-compliance, we could deal with it then.
I'm not even sure what that means. Honestly,
Yeah,
I
you know
went
what?
to some workshops.
And no one
with
else,
safety law.
nobody else has done it. So I'm saying, like, yeah,
So,
yeah, you're helping us. We're not helping you.
right.
Yeah.
And that, and that's part of the diversity plan and the positive impact that this,
Yep.
we could, I think that's on the applicant to show that this business will have a positive impact, that the diversity plan will have a positive impact on the community. I think that's on the applicant.
Yep.
So, but yeah, I mean, that whole impact plan, the town,
Yeah, we're not going there. We're just doing a social equity list.
they don't even, there's no guidance on it. They just threw that language out, I think.
Yeah.
And
I heard there's some
randomly.
legislation now, again, to change the Cannabis Control Commission, so I'll be interested.
It's definitely
was under
evolving a
review,
little
so,
bit,
like, I don't know what's
again. It's definitely some pushback with a lot of different things.
So, Emery, do you want to make a draft of the changes that we've talked about? Is that what you're doing? And
Yes.
maybe
Sure.
get
I'll
that
just,
to me to look at, just so that I can.
Yeah,
say,
I'll throw it, I'll do just a memo of
Yeah.
what we had discussed and the changes, itemize the changes, and then I'll send it to you and Marlene.
Okay. And then if we have to meet to discuss it again, we can set up another brief meeting to do so.
Sure.
Okay.
Sounds good. All right, anything else?
I don't think so. Do you have anything, Marlene?
Anything, Marlene?
Nope, nothing from me.
All right, thank you. Have a good rest of your afternoon.
Bye.
Bye.
Meeting adjourned.
Meeting adjourned. So moved.
40.
Aye.